The conference room was cold, not in temperature, but in tone. Sterile, calculated, unwelcoming. David Klein, the 42-year-old CEO of Novatech Solutions, stood at the head of the long glass table, adjusting the cuffs of his designer suit. The man radiated confidence and something more dangerous, entitlement. Across from him sat Ethan Cole, a 24-year-old junior developer barely 6 months into the job. Quiet, thoughtful, slightly awkward. But today, Ethan had something no one else at the company did, a revolutionary prototype. A sleek, AI-powered interface that could automate customer support with near-human empathy. It was more than an algorithm. It was personal. Ethan had spent 2 years perfecting it, working nights in silence, fueled by cheap ramen and raw ambition. And now, he was ready to show it. David didn't smile. He nodded curtly, eyes sharp. "Let's see it, kid. Make it worth my time." Ethan's hand trembled slightly as he clicked play on a demo. For the next 5 minutes, the room was silent. No interruptions, no questions, just the soft whir of the smart interface responding seamlessly to layered, emotional prompts. When the demo ended, David finally spoke. "Not bad," he muttered. Ethan blinked. "Not bad." David looked at his phone, disinterested. "Yeah, you got something. Needs polish, but I'll have the engineering team refine it. We'll fold it into the next software suite." Ethan froze. "Sir, I wanted to lead the dev on this. It's mine." David cut him off with a sharp glare. "You'll do what you're told. That'll be all, Ethan." The words landed like a slap. Ethan stood slowly, stunned. He'd just presented a product that could change the industry, and the CEO had dismissed him like a background extra. As he left the conference room, his phone buzzed. "Dad, how did the pitch go? Call me later. Proud of you." Ethan smiled faintly at the message. His father had always believed in him, even when he didn't believe in himself. But now wasn't the time for calls. Not yet, because something was wrong. 2 days later, Ethan's prototype was scrubbed from his workstation. Entirely gone. The local files, the backups, even the design notes. Vanished. He stormed into IT. "Where's my code?" They shrugged. "Could have been cleared during last night's server migration. Why wasn't I warned?" "Don't know, man. Orders from the top." Ethan's stomach turned. Something else was off. He overheard whispers in the hallway. CEO's launching a new product line. He says it's his brainchild. AI empathy module. It's brilliant. Ethan stopped breathing. His brainchild? Later that night, he stayed in the office after hours, combing through secured folders in the shared network. And there it was, Project Horizon. His code, his interface, renamed, repackaged, with David Klein listed as the creator. The audacity, the betrayal. Ethan wanted to scream. Instead, he grabbed his phone and for the first time in months called his father. The next morning, David Klein strolled into the boardroom, radiating smug energy. "Gentlemen," he said, sliding the Horizon deck onto the table. This is the future of Novatech. We go public with this, and we triple market cap." The board members murmured approvingly. David continued, "And yes, I personally led the development. We've integrated AI tech like no one else has. This will revolutionize." The door creaked open. All heads turned. Ethan stepped inside. Behind him, an older man in a navy three-piece suit walked in, calm, poised, commanding. Thomas Cole, founder, silent partner, and the man who owned 51% of Novatech's shares. David paled. Thomas smiled, cool and polite. "Morning, gentlemen. I heard we're talking about a product called Horizon." David stood quickly. "Tom, this is unexpected." "I bet it is." The room fell into silence. Ethan stepped forward. "The code was mine. I built it from scratch. David stole it, renamed it, wiped all traces of my ownership." The board members glanced at each other, shifting uncomfortably. David let out a low, forced chuckle. "That's absurd. He's a junior developer. The idea came from my department. I simply refined it." Thomas raised a hand, silencing him. "I've seen the code logs, the timestamps, the user access. Ethan's version was in development long before your refinement. And funny enough, yours only appears the day after you locked him out of his own files." David's face reddened. Thomas turned to the board. "I'll be conducting a full review of Project Horizon. In the meantime, All development halts immediately. David opened his mouth, but no words came. Thomas looked at him one last time. I think we need to talk. Alone. That night, Ethan returned to his desk to find a letter sitting neatly on his keyboard. No signature, just one line. You don't know who you're messing with. And attached a flash drive. He plugged it in. A single file appeared. Footage. Surveillance from the CEO's private office. And what Ethan saw made his blood run cold. Ethan stared at the screen. The footage was grainy, but clear enough to make out the details. David Klein, late night, in his office, alone. He watched as the CEO pulled out a flash drive from his drawer, plugged it into the company system, and began transferring files. Ethan paused, rewound, zoomed in, his code, his folder, his name. Then David leaned back in his chair and spoke out loud, maybe not realizing the office camera was rolling audio too. Let the kid whine. He'll quit eventually. Or I'll make him. Ethan's heart pounded. This wasn't just theft. This was premeditated sabotage. He could take this to HR, to the board, to his father. But something about that anonymous message, you don't know who you're messing with, sent a chill down his spine. He wasn't dealing with just ego anymore. He was dealing with a man willing to destroy reputations to protect his illusion of power. So Ethan made a decision. He wasn't going to HR. He was going to play dirty. Ethan spent the next 48 hours like a ghost in a building, silent, watching, planning. He dug deeper into David's past. That's when he found her, Madison Voss, a brilliant UI designer who had been at Novatech for 3 years, until she mysteriously resigned last summer. Quietly, no LinkedIn updates, no exit post, just gone. Ethan found her personal portfolio site, still active, and sent a discreet message. Hi Madison, I think David Klein may have done to me what he did to you. I don't want money. I want justice. Can we talk? She replied in 10 minutes. By the next evening, they were sitting at a coffee shop across town. Madison's eyes were tired but sharp. He buried me, she said flatly. Stole my app redesign pitch, blocked me from meetings, told the board I cracked under pressure. And I couldn't fight him. I didn't have this. She tapped the flash drive Ethan had brought with him. Together, they started piecing together a timeline of abuse, manipulation, and theft. And they weren't the only victims. Within hours, 3 other former employees had responded to Madison's outreach. Each one had a story. Each one had receipts. And now, Ethan had something David didn't. A war room. Monday morning, 9 a.m. David strutted into the weekly board meeting like nothing had happened. Polished, smiling, wearing a new watch, still with the price tag loop dangling from the clasp. Let's pick up where we left off, he said coolly. Horizon is back in motion. Legal cleared it. Minor hiccup, all sorted. He didn't notice the extra chair in the room. Didn't notice the small USB plugged into the presentation laptop. Didn't notice the subtle shift in the room's energy. Until Thomas Cole walked in with Ethan beside him and hit play. First, the video. David froze. Then, the testimonials. Audio clips of Madison, of other former employees, of timelines that matched, of emails with timestamps that destroyed every defense he might have had. David stood slowly, his smile now twisted into a desperate snarl. This is a witch hunt. You're taking the word of interns and nobodies over the CEO. Thomas's eyes narrowed. You stole from my son, he said, voice like ice. You tried to bury him the way you buried others. But he didn't run. He fought. He tossed a folder on the table. Effective immediately, you're terminated. Legal will follow up. David's eyes flickered with rage. You think I'm scared of you, Tom? You think I don't have leverage? You think I don't know your secrets? A beat, a silence. Then Ethan stepped forward. I'm not my father, he said, but I'm not scared of you either. David's face twisted. He looked around the room, at the board members now turning on him, at Thomas, at Ethan, and for the first time, he looked small. David was gone by the end of the day, escorted out by security, his face red with shame, muttering under his breath. The news didn't break publicly. Novatech kept it internal. But word spread fast among industry circles. Ethan was offered a leadership position, head of innovation, but he didn't take it right away. Instead, he visited Madison. I want to build something, he told her. Something honest, transparent, with people who care more about impact than ego. She smiled. You're serious? Ethan nodded. I've got seed capital. I've got the tech. I just need the team. And that's how Horizon Labs was born. A competitor, a disruptor, a future David Klein would read about from the sidelines. Months later, after a successful product launch, Ethan received a package. No return address. Inside, a copy of Forbes featuring Horizon Labs on the cover, and a sticky note. Nice move, kid, but this isn't over. No signature, just a thumbprint, burned in red ink. Ethan stared at it, jaw tightening, because he recognized the print. David Klein wasn't done yet. 6 months later, Ethan Cole stood in the glass-walled office of Horizon Labs, overlooking a skyline that used to intimidate him. Now it inspired him. His company was booming. Investors were flooding in. The team was growing fast, and the new AI model was outperforming every legacy system in the market. But that morning, the past came knocking. Literally. Sir, his assistant said, her voice tight. There's a man downstairs. Won't give his name. Says you want to see him. Ethan's chest tightened. He walked to the elevator, took it down in silence. And there he was, sitting in the lobby like he owned the place. David Klein. No suit, no power tie, just a beaten-down man in a cheap jacket, eyes darker than before, and a smirk that hadn't aged well. You look good, David said, standing. Ethan didn't reply. David pulled something from his coat pocket, a small black notebook. Let's talk. They sat in a corner booth at a diner a few blocks away. David ordered coffee. Ethan didn't touch his. David leaned in, sliding the notebook across the table. Novatech's finances from the last 3 years. Fudged numbers, tax reports, offshore accounts. You think I was bad? Your father made me look like an altar boy. Ethan stared at the notebook. David grinned. I walk into the SEC with this. Your dad gets indicted. Novatech collapses. Shareholders go nuclear. And you lose your safety net. What do you want? David's smile faded. A seat at Horizon Labs. Silent partner. 5% stake. No questions. Or this, he tapped the notebook, goes public. Ethan didn't blink. You don't have copies? David laughed. I'm dumb, but not stupid. I've got more. Ethan looked down, calculating, cold, silent. Then finally, he smiled. Thanks, David. For what? For confirming everything. Ethan reached into his coat pocket and pulled out his phone. Hit a button. Recording saved. Uploading to cloud. David's face went pale. I thought you might come crawling back, Ethan said calmly. So I did my homework. He slid a small, silver device onto the table. A recorder. Turns out, blackmailing a corporate executive using fabricated documents? Still a federal crime. David's jaw clenched. Fabricated? Every number in that notebook? Already audited. Already cleared. I knew you stole it from the old server drive. I left it there. Wait. David shot up, grabbing the notebook. It was too late. Ethan stood too. Oh, and David, your prints are all over that folder. Digital and physical. You just walked into a trap. A quiet voice behind them spoke. Mr. Klein, you'll need to come with us. 2 plainclothes agents stepped into view. Calm, confident. David's eyes darted between them. No, this is a setup. He set me up. They cuffed him. The notebook? Sealed in an evidence bag. Ethan didn't watch him get dragged out. He just walked away. A week later, Ethan sat in a private lounge, nursing a coffee with his father, Thomas Cole, beside him. No one's ever come at me like that, Thomas admitted. Even I didn't see it coming. Ethan nodded. I did. Thomas smiled. You didn't just protect the company. You protected our name. Ethan looked out the window. I'm done being underestimated. Thomas put a hand on his shoulder. So what's next? Ethan stood. Calm, focused. We scale. We expand. We bring Madison back as creative lead. We build something that buries everything Novatech pretended to be. Thomas chuckled. Then it's time I step aside. Novatech is yours. Horizon's yours. I'll stay on the board, but from now on, you're in charge. Ethan turned slowly. What? Thomas smiled. I was never the one with the vision. You were. The next morning, Horizon Labs went live with its new launch. Horizon 2.0, a next-gen AI framework designed to humanize tech and empower the vulnerable. Ethan stood before a massive crowd. cameras, journalists, investors. My name is Ethan Cole. I'm the founder of Horizon Labs. And this isn't just software, it's the future. Not built on stolen ideas or hidden agendas, but on integrity. He paused, and one more thing. He turned to the camera. To those who think power gives you the right to take what you want, this is your world. The future isn't owned by thieves anymore. It's built by the people who never stopped believing in something better. The audience erupted, and far away, in a prison visitation room, David Klein watched the live feed. Alone, defeated, forgotten.